Welcome to the Art of the Intuitive Mind. I'm your host, Romilly. I hope that you find something in this session that enables you to connect to your inner truth.
Hooray! So I'm here with Dominique Hurley today, an intuitive visionary artist. Welcome, Dominique, and thank you so much for participating in this event. Your work is so special, and I'm so excited to be able to share you with everybody today.
I thank you. It's so wonderful to be here with you. And there we go. The throat's already going.
For those of us who, or for those of the watchers who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your fabulous work and
Thank you.
how you came to be
Yes,
here?
I'd love to. So I'm an intuitive visionary artist and a light worker. That's how I describe myself. And my mission has really been to explore and express my love of beauty and the beauty of love. And I've done this through painting, photography, energy work, traveling, teaching. And I feel that the more that I thrive in my own simply rich and happy spirit-driven life, the more that I can experience for myself, but also inspire others to live in a state of wellness and creativity and inspiration and integrity and all those good things. So I try to help people connect to their true self. And everything I create or co-create, because I believe that it's all coming through me, is to help nourish their transformational journey. So I'm on my journey, and by so doing, I'm hoping to help others on their journey.
Fantastic. And I know that intuition is a huge part of your work, and I would like to ask what the experience of intuition is like for you. How do you experience it?
Well, I created the Intuition into Action, 5 Steps to a Happy, Healthy Life. It's a treasure map that actually is a free gift if people sign up for. Just a 75-minute video to help guide you through those and just to help explain it. And it was the more that I was living intuitively, and people around me or people in my old work settings, when I would come back and visit, they were like, how do you do this? And how do you find the courage to? And so I learned it for myself, and that helped me on my path of health and happiness. And the more I did so, then I shared it with others. So that all started, well, in the late 80s when I graduated university, and I found my dream job right away, which was in government as a visual arts representative on a national scale. And it was my dream job, but what I didn't realize is it wasn't my dream job forever. So after 3 years, I started getting rather unhappy. And the more unhappy I was at work, the more I needed to paint on the weekends, to ground, to connect. The studio was my space of connection, of release, of layering, of processing. It was not just my classroom with my guides and angels. It was also, my therapy room. It was my release room, my recreation room. It was all of that. And so then I started studying energy work and just integrating that in my artwork. So what's now popular as intuitive or energism art, intuitive painting, I've been doing since the late 80s. And it's been on and off because when I followed those intuitive guidance, it led me to overseas teaching English as a second language. And as long as I was creative, which meant at that time curriculum development and exploring photography for the first time in my life, traveling, that was fantastic. And so when I came back to Canada years later, that's when I got back into the painting, when all of a sudden, again, I was so busy helping someone else in their creative journey in terms of being hired as someone's administrative assistant and, working on all of his brilliant ideas. I let go of my feminine side. I let go of my creativity. And again, it was like a space of unhappiness. And that's when I was led back, actually, the work of Julia Cameron. Have you heard of the book? Oh my goodness, the name's not
The Artist's Way.
The Artist's Way.
Yes,
so I had to go through that to get me back into it. And then after that, it's like the gateway was open. It was like I was unleashed. I couldn't stop. So
fantastic.
But the more I was doing and the more I was learning in the studio, the more other people wanted to learn about how I was living my life and that kind of thing.
I think it's really interesting that you're saying about how that when you were away traveling, that you were feeding your creativity but in a different way, and it's I think often people can kind of think of it as it's got to be painting or drawing and I don't know, the sort of, but it's actually, there's so many different ways that you can recognize that you are actually feeding your creativity. And I also completely sympathize with when for whatever reason you sort of disconnect from that for a while, that it can be, at first you sort of don't realize what impact it's having on you, and then it's like, oh, there's like a big part is missing. And for me, I know that I really need to express myself, or do, as we're saying, in all sorts of different ways, do something creative every day that like feeds my soul effectively. And yeah, the 5 steps, your treasure map, I signed up for that some time ago and I loved it, and it's fantastic. And it's been, for me, it was really, really wonderful. Also your is it the 11, I've forgotten the name of it now,
to connect to your true self series. There's the 12 universal laws.
Yes.
And that was that was an amazing way. So how, for me, creativity and intuition go hand in hand. And so that series of mandalas, it was a way for my guides to teach me about the universal laws. Most people have heard about the law of attraction through the movie The Secret and the work of Abraham Hicks. When you're feeling high, more of that vibration gets attracted to you like a magnet. But if you stay stuck in that spiraling of feeling not good in yourself, and you're not able to get out of that vibration, you're attracting more of that vibration to you. So that's the law of attraction. But there were 11 others that I didn't know. So as I did an intuitive reading for each. So this is the same work I do for clients, except this was for myself and for a reading, where I closed my eyes. I asked my guides for an explanation of the law. I took the names off the internet of the 12 laws. And then I would download it. It's like seeing a Disney Pixar movie in my mind's eye. And I would record everything I was seeing. And then as I was painting for like 60, 70 hours on each mandala, I would interpret and get messages. And so as each mandala evolved, I then, was writing about it and teaching people about it. And then just seeing the mandalas helps me, as I walk by or something like that, helps me to remember those laws and live them in my life. So everything, that was one of them. Yeah, that was, so the studio or the painting helped me tap into my intuition, but my intuition helped me create the art. So it's that beautiful dance of the two.
It's fascinating. I think that for me, when I create art, that the what I'm creating, it acts as a reminder. So I infuse what it is that I want to call in, or a way of being, and into what I'm creating at the time. And then every time I come back to it, it's there as like a reminder of the thing.
Exactly. It's like a visual anchor of that energy. I feel like the energy work that I'm doing in a painting stays there, but there's also all the visual stimulus. So people who come into my exhibitions or who are attracted to peace and bring it home, it's not only the visual. I know there's so much more. And it's a powerful experience when you walk into a room with a lot of it. It's too powerful for some. But it's a beautiful thing to watch people connect to a piece and to just allow it to do its work on them, like whether they start crying, whether they just sit there and just are in awe, whether they start journaling, or whether they just light up with delight. Like, it's just very different for everyone in different pieces. Some won't resonate at all, and it's probably because I was working on energy healing in that piece that is not needed. So it's not just on a visual, it's very much energetic.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
You had asked me to bring a piece, an object.
Oh yes. I forgot. We were going to start with our joyful object. Yes. So something that brings you joy today. So
why don't you start with yours? I'd love to see.
So I've got a little owl here. He actually lives on my desk over there most of the time. But my sister gave him to me. He comes from Mexico, and he's got very funny eyes, but he just always makes me smile every time I see him, and he's lovely and colourful, and I love anything.
He matches your studio.
I love anything to do with sort of fabrics and yarn. I study textiles, and he's tactile and delightful. So he's my little owl for the day. He doesn't actually have a name. I ought to give him a name. By the end of the event, he'll have a name.
Maybe, yes. Oh, that's lovely. And it's important to surround ourselves by things that nourish us, that, you walk by and it makes you smile. I mean, how many people on their walls still have things that were for maybe a marriage that disintegrated, but it has too much value, so they never got rid of it, or things that remind them or that hold the energy of a space or a time that was not a happy one for them. It's like that's part of the decluttering thing, is let go of, no matter who gave it to you, and they're going to come and it's like, where's that thing I gave it? Well, you gave it to me, I can do with it what I want, and for my own health and happiness I had to let it go. So yay for you for bringing stuff in that brings you joy. I'm sharing this with you.
One of your wonderful drums.
It's called the Blessings Drum, and there's a great story with this. This is one of 8 drums, actually 10, because I'm working on a second commission after the drum series. But this was a perfect example of how intuition and creativity come together. Right before Christmas, I got an intuitive message that I was to go and study in Italy. So by the time this airs, I will probably be in Europe, either on my pilgrimage, Mary Magdalene pilgrimage in the south of France, or doing 2 months of studies for my transformative art certification at the Academy of Art, Creativity and Consciousness near Assisi. And the way that happened was I was feeling a little stagnant and drained before Christmas, and just knowing something needed to change, and that's usually my signal. And so, of course, I asked, and that's the first step, is ask for help. So I asked my team of divine helpers for guidance on what was next, what I needed to do, what I needed to be, what I needed to open up to. And then message after message started coming, and I always ask for confirmation. So the first thing that happened was I would see in my mind's eye a poster that used to be on the wall years ago of yoga poses from the ashram across the street from that art academy, where I had been artist in residence back in 2014. And so it's like, oh, maybe I should reach out to Dana, the person who runs the place, and just, see if she needs help teaching or something in the summer. And I was like, and I started daydreaming about spending 2 months at that ashram and just taking care of me, and, letting go of the marketing and the working and the caregiving that I'm doing here as well, that kind of thing, just a break for me. And then I went on a retreat and kept getting the same message, but had a busy week, never contacted her. But then got an email from her, one of her newsletter emails, which she rarely sends out. And it was about a 2-month program for this transformative art thing. I was like, well then. And so it was like, and then on the day where I said yes, like that day is like, okay, this is what this is about. Show me confirmation. The next day, someone bought a painting that covered tuition, or 2 paintings that covered tuition. It was like, okay, that's a confirmation sign. And from there, I still had a lot of fundraising to do for everything. 3 months in Europe isn't cheap. I'm in Canada, by the way. I'm on the island of Newfoundland. And so I had my legs up the wall doing restorative yoga, and just all of a sudden had this download. So it was an idea, a flash of an idea of get 8 drums, charge $888 for each, paint them. And I hadn't done painted drums since maybe 2015 when I came back from my first trip. And it was like, well, it's January. Who's going to buy art in January? They're all sold except for this one, the Blessings Drum, which I'm
Fantastic.
I'm having such a beautiful time playing it. So until it finds a home, I'm going to enjoy it. And 2 commissions since. So, I mean, I have been in an absolute creatively intensive flow. I couldn't keep up that kind of a pace year round, but the month of January was like 9 drums in a row, 16-hour marathons, just channeling the visions, painting them, just absolute bliss. And it's bringing to me what I need. So I think that's how creativity and intuition feed. Like, as soon as you say yes, then doors open to support you on, if it's aligned, if it's aligned.
I completely agree with that. And I feel like, personally, I spent a long time feeling I just didn't really think I had any intuition at all. And then something happened which kind of like showed me that I did have intuition unexpectedly. And since then I've been really sort of working to connect to it. And there's so much of sort of trusting and allowing, like, you need to trust that whatever it is, even if it seems like totally crazy, like go to Europe, or that it's coming for a reason and it's the right thing to do, and to trust that all the experiences that follow there are going to be the right ones.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a journey. It's not just the goal of going to Italy. It's everything that leads up to it. And why am I being sent to Italy? Is it to do this transformative art certification? That might just be a bonus. Maybe there's another reason why I'm meant to be there at that time. And that embracing the mystery and trust is a huge part of living an intuitive life. I think an even bigger part, which is that being able to say yes to the guidance, is knowing that intuition is always a stretch of your comfort zone, because you're emerging more into your true self. You're being asked to, grow into more of who you have always been and were meant to be. And that's scary. I'm a huge chicken. I don't like change. But you look at my resume, I've lived and worked on 3 continents and 5 different provinces in Canada. It's like, for someone who doesn't like change and sometimes have to kick myself out the door to go and well, I love nature, so that'll always get me out, but I'm a happy hermit type person. So, it's about being able to take those risks. And if you start with the baby steps and see, like, oh, I thought of someone today, I actually called them and they were hoping to hear, I actually helped cheer them up. Or sometimes you don't even know why, but you have a lovely connection or something happens. You say yes to a little baby step, you'll get more comfortable to take those leaps of faith.
Yeah. And also,
how does intuition come in for you? Like, what are the channels? Like, how does it manifest?
I wouldn't say that I sort of like see things. I just feel. I think that's what it is. It feels like a bodily experience for me. And the gut feeling. I don't know whether it's particularly gut, but it just feels like a real rooted feeling. And yeah, it's interesting that I just feel like then I know. And even though then my rational brain might jump in and be like, oh, no, it's like, if I can stay with that feeling, that knowing, and I just make decisions from there, then I find that it's incredible how much opens up before you. You think that then it's like, oh my God, I can't believe that this happened because I followed that feeling. And so
Well, you make an interesting and very important point, is that it's that initial feeling, right? So you're talking about clairsentience, where it comes through feeling and sensory. So it could be chills down your spine, or it could be just a sense of expansion. So something or you're given guidance, or you see something, a synchronicity that sort of like makes you feel totally expansive. You pay attention, and then it's like, for example, oh, I need to go to Italy, and then it's like, oh, but I don't have the money, I don't have the time. What's that going to mean? Oh my God, I can't leave the computer for 3 months. It's like, that kind of thing. So what was the initial feeling? So an expansion is a yes, a contraction is a no, but be careful of those expansive contractions, which is your ego jumping in to keep you into your status quo, which is its job. And thank you for it, but I'm ready to grow. So good for you for recognizing that. And yes, and I think that's, like, I talk about my visions, and some people will be like envious. I want to see, the guided meditation we're going to do in a bit. People are like, well, I'm not seeing anything. There's like so many ways of experiencing your intuition and your guides, your angels, whatever your belief system, your heart. It's that connection between the right brain and the heart. It will talk to you in a way that's most open to you. So it might be through that sense of feeling. It might be through a sense of hearing. Once or twice in my life, the message came through clairaudience, which was like someone talking inside my head. And it was like, like being here in Newfoundland in 2011. I was looking at my emails, and when you get to the homepage, there's like photos and news stories, and it was just a nondescript nature photo. And I heard, that's where you're living next. And of course, my heart sank. I was like, oh, please, not some war-torn country. I can't go through this. And it's like, I click on the photo, Newfoundland. It's like, oh, okay. And I asked for confirmation, got a whole bunch of signs in the next 2 days. And then it was like, took me 6 months to pack up and leave. So there's the clairaudience, there's the claircognizance, which is just a clear knowing, like those, all of a sudden, these ideas that, like, where'd that come from? If you've asked for help, like, pay attention to everything, and it may not be immediate. It could come in the next few days or the next few weeks. Synchronicity is always a great one, but also the clear taste and clear smell, which is more rare. But there's hearing and feeling, and it could just be through colors. It could be through feeling warm, all sorts of ways. So don't compare yourself to how others are doing it. Just pay attention where it's coming from.
It's interesting, because that I've definitely had, and I'm sure that other people too, is that you sort of can have, do all sorts of different experiences, and you feel as though that there's like, well, I'm not doing it right, I'm not getting the right, I can't see anything, or I can't, but it's learning to listen and trust for yourself.
Yes.
But also I wondered whether, with, I can never remember all the names of the Claires, all the different Claires.
That's all right.
Do you feel that you have been able to kind of, I know that I heard you speaking on a podcast, and you said about how you've always felt a really strong connection to your intuition. That's correct, isn't it? But,
yes. Yeah. As a young child, I spent most of my time alone in the forest. My dad was in the Air Force. We were in Germany. So I spent a lot of time in nature. But like many children, I mean, it's our birthright. We come in extremely intuitive. It gets taught out of us. So it's just re-exercising that muscle, that part of ourselves, which is natural in everyone. It's not that someone's more special because they've got this skill. No, we all had it. And we lost it, and it's about reconnecting. So my life circumstances kept it more fresh, but I also learned very young not to talk about things like that to my friends in school. I was laughed at. So I learned to like shut the talking about it. But because we moved around a lot and my peer group was different all the time, I got to start over and like learn, okay, we don't talk about that with other people or things like that. And so I just kept it to myself. And then it wasn't until after that government job, after 4 years, where I was really unhappy, and I gave myself 2 weeks to change, to come up to a decision that something had to change, because I was crying on Sunday nights and not happy going to work. And it's like, this is not right. And so it was at that time where I consciously decide to use my intuition. So before that, it was just part of who I was, and I didn't really notice or understand or any of that. It just was on and off at different levels at different times. But back then in 1991, it was like, okay, I need to work every single resource I have to change my life, because this can't go on.
Fantastic. Yeah. And do you think that I could like talk to you for hours and hours about intuition, but I know we want to get onto the practice. But one last question from me. I just wanted to ask about I know that you do your like storytelling. What would you have? I forgot what you call it. You have your
divine, my divine storytelling.
Yes.
These are the intuitive reading packages I do for people. So it's the 1 hour recording, and I create a photograph that's layered photography from images from around the world. And with all of that, people actually, I don't interpret it for them. No one is better at interpreting what something means than you for you. Just for example, this drum commission I'm working on for someone, a poem, my first recorded song came out of it. It's, nothing fancy. It's just I recorded the poem for her, so that with the drumming, so that she could hear it. And things in the poem that I had no idea about, phrases meant things so clear to her that there's no way I could have interpreted. People in her life that had passed were coming through, but it's not for me to interpret. It was for her to find those connections and to feel like, so that's what the intuitive reading is like. Yeah.
So it's sort of like you're presenting them with a connection, basically, that they can. It's like a tool, I suppose, isn't it? That, yeah.
It is. It's a tool, and one that can be used for months and months and months. Every time you have a question, you listen to it in a different part. Like the stories are usually around an hour long. So one part of the story will mean one thing one time. Another part of the story will mean, something else a different time, and won't even attract your attention at all until something happens. Your team of divine helpers knows in advance, like, they see the big picture. They know you're going to need this 2 months down the road or something. And so I know some clients who have had like regular ones done every year or two. And they say every time they work with one, their intuition is getting stronger, and it takes them less and less time to transform their life based on the story that's for them. But it's easy also to misinterpret. I know you'd asked me in an email once, like, how do you discern between guidance and wishful thinking, for example, or something else? It's like, it's okay to make mistakes. We're learning things, right? And for me, I always ask for confirmation and look for signs. So I become in a state of hyper awareness in terms of, like, for Italy, the fact that the sale of those 2 paintings a couple of days later or was equal to the tuition. It was like, to me, that was a sign. And others came in, like, so it's like, I need signs to confirm. And sometimes I don't. Like when I got the idea for the drums, it's like, well, I'm trying to save money to go to Italy, and here I am being asked to spend $1,000 on drums so that I can, make more money. It's like, sure, if that's the intuition, just go for it. But I want to show you actually these two paintings that were part of another. I'm just going to share my screen. Let me know when you can see it.
Yes.
So this was part of this is the Reconnect to Your True Self collection, where I was in Ottawa with my father, and my mother was in a home and in palliative care. And I got this download that I was to buy 11 2x4 feet canvases, 24 inch by 48, to do a spiritual sort of retrospective of my own life. And so the one on the left was the first one, and it's called Every Dot a Prayer. And as I was doing this, I was getting messages, and one of them was to go to Glastonbury in England. I don't know if you've been there. It's in your country, but it's a sacred space.
It's not far.
And oh, lucky. And so I went there, and so this was at the beginning, and then months later, I did go to Glastonbury. And the painting on the right, called The Gateway, was the painting I created, the last one of the collection, when I came back from Glastonbury, and it was about the marriage of the divine feminine and masculine. And you can see the Vesica Pisces here, which is the cover of the chalice well, and is also in the first painting. It's the sacred geometry that I resonate with the most. But this is about rebirthing the world. From this painting, I understood that I was to take 2 months to go to Ireland and isolate myself. I do these spiritual retreats in nature reserves at different Buddhist monastery and a Christian. They had these pods in the forest, and like just different places where I could figure out what to do with my career, how to rebirth my world, make it more viable, make it more, it was a time to do something. This was back in 2019. And the result will be the rebirthing of the world. But I took it personally, the message I was receiving, as the rebirthing of my world. 1 or 2 months later, the pandemic hit. We were all asked to go into isolation, not for 2 months, but for 2 years. And then it was about the rebirthing of the actual planet. So here I got this message for the planet, and I took it as a message for me in my world. So like it's, I didn't beat myself up for it, but it was like, in retrospect, it's like, I was being given a message for something way bigger than me. We're all connected and stuff, but it's like, so how I interpreted it, I didn't go on that trip to Ireland. 2 years later, I did go just for the tourist part of it that I couldn't get a refund from, but I didn't do the 2 months. I'm doing that now in Italy instead. And so sometimes we will get a message like, okay, well, I got part of it right, didn't get the whole thing right. That's okay. And you just move on, you listen for other guidance. So I just wanted to share that story, just to, I may be intuitive, and I may have been doing this professionally, and I may have been living this way my whole life, but we all make mistakes. So let go of that fear of what if I didn't get it right? Well, then you'll make another ask and open and act. But the important thing is to act, because guidance without action on it, like without acting on your guidance, is completely useless.
I think that's lovely. There's such like permission and forgiveness in that, of being kind to yourself, and wonderful acceptance there. So lovely. So before we move on to the creative practice, what have you got to share? People can go and sign up with you.
Yes, well, it's the Intuition into Action treasure map. So the 5 steps to happy, healthy life. It's a 75-minute video on my website that you sign up for, and you'll get 5 emails in a row after you watch the video, just on different things that are related to intuition. But it's an explanation of intuition. I go more into the 5 steps. There's a couple of exercises in there. It's just to get more aware of what intuition is. So it's kind of like a little tutorial. And the 5 emails that follow just sort of introduce you to my world and to different exercises on intuition. And then I send out a blog post every Tuesday. So from there, you'll automatically be put onto that list, but you can unsubscribe at any time. As I say, everything I experience is to help inspire others. So whether it be an introduction to a painting or videography, which I got into big time, making these mini movies of, not all mini, some of them are documentaries that are an hour long, but I got into videography during the pandemic to help all those that were stuck in concrete cities and weren't allowed to go out to connect to nature, because it broke my heart to know that people couldn't access nature. And here I was on this beautiful, gorgeous island. So my photography, I went into videography and love creating videos. So it's just another expression. And so anyways, every week on the blog is something different. And while I'm in Europe studying, I'll probably be going back and just automatically posting this series where you have 3 paintings, which one speaks to you the most. They're called Love Oracles. And then you read the message that goes with it to help you with your day. So.